When ancient beacons awaken. The crystal spires of New Zephyr gleamed like frozen starlight against the purple sky, their surfaces reflecting the twin suns that had warmed this world for 1,000 generations. Commander Vale stood at the observation deck of the Central Defense Tower, watching as another transport ship lifted off from the civilian docks. The elegant vessel, shaped like a flower petal and humming with harmonic engines, carried another 1,000 refugees to the outer colonies. Vale's elongated fingers traced the smooth surface of the window. The Zephyrians had evolved from a species of peaceful tree dwellers, and their architecture reflected this heritage. Every building curved gracefully upward, every street followed natural contours, and every garden bloomed with bioluminescent flowers that provided gentle light during the night cycles. It was a civilization built on harmony, knowledge, and the pursuit of beauty. That was exactly why the Korthic Empire wanted to destroy it. "Commander," called Dr. Nira from across the command center. The elderly scientist's voice carried the melodic tones typical of their species, but today it held an edge of desperation. "I need to show you something important." Vale turned from the window and walked to where Nira stood beside a massive holographic display. The scientist's silver hair flowed like liquid mercury, and her large violet eyes showed the strain of weeks without proper rest. Around them, junior officers monitored defensive systems and evacuation protocols, their movements precise despite the fear that everyone felt. "What have you found?" Vale asked, studying the scrolling data on the display. Nira manipulated the controls with her six-fingered hands, bringing up what looked like ancient text covered in geometric symbols. "I've been searching through our historical archives, looking for any technology that might help against the Korthic fleet. I found this in the deepest vaults, sealed away for over 5,000 years." The symbols pulsed with a faint blue light as Nira continued her explanation. "These are records from the time of wanderers, when our ancestors first settled this world. They speak of visitors from distant stars who helped establish our early colonies. These visitors left behind what they called beacon stones as a gift." Vale studied the ancient writing. The old language was difficult to read, but certain phrases stood out. Guardian callers, star shield summoners, protector awakeners. What kind of gift? "Emergency communication devices," Nira replied, her excitement growing despite their dire situation. "According to these records, the beacon stones were designed to call for help from the visitors if our people ever faced extinction. The ancients called them the great protectors who would come when summoned." A younger officer approached their station, her uniform marked with the blue stripes of Communications Division. "Commander, we're receiving another transmission from the Korthic fleet. General Thork demands our surrender within 6 hours, or they will begin orbital bombardment of the civilian sectors." Vale's jaw tightened. The Korthak were a warrior species that expanded their empire by conquering peaceful worlds. They had appeared in Zephyrian space 3 months ago, with a massive fleet of black warships shaped like predatory insects. Their ultimatum was simple: submit to slavery or face extinction. The Zephyrians had no warships, no weapons of mass destruction, and no allies strong enough to help them. "How many civilians have we evacuated?" Vale asked. 40%, Commander. But our transport capacity is limited. At current rates, we can save perhaps half our population before the Korthic attack." Half their population. 5 billion souls would perish unless something changed. Vale looked back at Nira's display, studying the ancient symbols with new interest. "These beacon stones, do any still exist?" Nira nodded eagerly. 3 were preserved in the archives. I've spent the last week studying their construction. They're unlike any technology I've ever seen. The power source appears to be some form of quantum resonance that never depletes. The communication array can broadcast across galactic distances instantly. "But we don't know who will receive the signal," Vale pointed out. "These great protectors might be extinct, or it might have become something hostile. Or they might still be protectors," Nira countered. "Commander, I've analyzed our situation from every angle. Our defense fleet cannot hold against the Korthak for more than a few hours. Our evacuation ships are too slow to save everyone. The beacon is our only remaining option." Vale looked around the command center at the faces of their officers. Young and old, they all showed the same expression of determined desperation. The Zephyrians were scholars and artists, not warriors. They had built a civilization based on knowledge and beauty, and now they faced destruction by creatures who valued only power and conquest. "Show me these beacon stones," Vale decided. The journey to the archive depths took them through corridors lined with the collected knowledge of their species. Glowing manuscripts floated in preservation fields, while holographic displays showed scientific discoveries and artistic masterpieces. This was what the Korthak would destroy, not just lives, but the accumulated wisdom and culture of millennia. The vault containing the beacon stones required both Vale's command codes and Nira's scientific clearance to open. Inside, 3 crystalline objects sat on pedestals like frozen lightning. Each beacon was roughly the height of a Zephyrian, with a surface that seemed to shift between solid crystal and flowing energy. "How do we activate them?" Vale asked. Nira approached the nearest beacon with reverence. According to the records, they respond to emotional resonance as much as physical contact. The user must genuinely desire protection for their people and place their hands on the activation nodes. Vale studied the beacon's surface and found several indentations that might fit Zephyrian hands. The ancient text had mentioned that the visitors were different from their people, but perhaps the beacons had been designed to work for multiple species. "Commander," came a voice from Vale's communicator. "The Korthak fleet has moved into bombardment position. We have 4 hours until their deadline." 4 hours to save their civilization. Vale placed their hands against the cool surface of the beacon and focused on the desperate need to protect their people. The crystal began to glow with increasing intensity, and symbols appeared on its surface, not Zephyrian symbols, but something else entirely. The beacon suddenly erupted with brilliant light that filled the entire vault. Energy raced up through the stone floors and metal walls, seeking the fastest path to space. On the surface, civilians and soldiers alike stopped to stare as a column of pure light shot from the archive building into the sky, passed through the atmosphere, and continued into the depths of space at impossible speed. Aboard the Korthak flagship, Bone Crusher, General Thork watched the light beam with narrowed yellow eyes. The massive reptilian warrior stood over 3 meters tall, his scales dark as space, and his claws sharp enough to rend metal. He had conquered 17 worlds for the Empire, and the Zephyrians were supposed to be his easiest victory yet. "What is that light?" he demanded of his sensor operators. "Unknown, General. It appears to be some form of communication signal, but it's using no frequency we recognize. The beam is directed toward the galactic core region." Thork's lipless mouth pulled back in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "They're calling for help. How pathetic. No one in this sector has the power to challenge the Korthak Empire." He turned to his weapons officer. "Accelerate our timeline. Begin bombardment in 2 hours. I want to eliminate whatever help they think is coming." The signal raced through space at speeds that defied known physics, carrying with it the desperate hope of an entire species. It passed through star systems, where ancient ruins hinted at forgotten civilizations, through nebulae where new worlds were being born, and finally into a region of space that most galactic maps marked as unexplored. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez was having a perfectly ordinary day aboard the UES Defiant when the universe decided to change everything. The communications officer was reviewing routine patrol reports when every screen on his console suddenly displayed the same message in perfect, impossible English. "Guardians needed. PC full species facing XT. Tishoin. Kugu ordinates ATA Be Kion activation CODE. TRA Prime Guardian Protocol." Marcus stared at the message for several seconds before hitting his emergency alert button. "Captain Chen to the bridge immediately. Priority Alpha. Captain Sarah Chen arrived on the bridge within minutes, her black hair still damp from the shower, and her uniform hastily assembled. She was young for a ship captain, but her record spoke for itself. 3 commendations for tactical excellence, and a reputation for making impossible decisions under pressure. "Report," she ordered, settling into her command chair. "Unknown signal, Captain. It came through on frequencies we don't even have equipment for, but somehow our computers translated it perfectly." Marcus transferred the message to the main screen. Chen read the message twice, her expression growing more serious with each word. The attached coordinates showed a star system 4 days away at maximum warp. The Defiant was a Titan-class battleship designed for deep space patrol and equipped with enough firepower to crack a small moon. "Any information about this Terra Prime Guardian protocol?" she asked. Her science officer, Dr. Amanda Kim, looked up from her station with confusion written across her features. "Captain, according to my database search, that protocol doesn't exist in any of our military files. But the computer seems to recognize it anyway. It's automatically flagged the message as highest priority and is requesting permission to route it to Fleet Command." Chen stood and walked to the main view screen, looking out at the stars. Humanity had been exploring space for over 2 centuries, but they had encountered very few alien civilizations. Most were either primitive or wanted nothing to do with humans. A direct request for help was unprecedented. "Communications, send the message to Fleet Command immediately. Include our position and recommend immediate investigation." She turned to her navigation officer. "Set course for those coordinates, maximum warp. If someone is facing extinction, every hour could matter." "Captain," called her tactical officer, "should we request additional ships? We don't know what we're flying into." Chen considered this. The Defiant was powerful, but if an entire species was facing extinction, their enemies might be beyond what one ship could handle. "Send a message to any Earth ships in this sector. Tell them we're responding to a distress call and may need support." As the Defiant turned toward unknown space, its crew had no idea they were about to become part of something much larger than a simple rescue mission. In the depths of space, other human ships were receiving the same signal. The message was somehow reaching every Earth vessel within 100 light-years, all carrying the same impossible request. Back on Zephyr Prime, Commander Vale and Dr. Nira watched their sensors as the beacon's energy pulse faded. The light column had lasted only minutes, but its effects would ripple across the galaxy. "Did it work?" Vale asked. Nira checked her instruments with trembling hands. The signal reached its intended destination. "But Commander, I'm detecting something strange in the quantum resonance patterns. The beacon wasn't just sending a message. It was activating something vast and distributed across multiple star systems." Before Vale could respond, their communicator crackled with urgent reports from orbit. "Commander, we're detecting multiple energy signatures at the edge of our system. Ships are arriving." Vale and Nira raced back to the command center, where the main display now showed long-range sensor readings. Bright flashes appeared one after another as ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. But these weren't the curved, organic shapes of Korthik vessels. These were angular, purposeful, and completely unfamiliar. "How many?" Vale asked. 37 ships confirmed, more arriving every minute, reported the sensor operator. The largest vessel measures nearly 2 kilometers in length. Energy readings are off our scales. On the display, the unknown fleet formed into a defensive pattern around Zephyr Prime, placing themselves between the planet and the Korthik forces. It was a formation that spoke of military precision and protective intent. "Commander," came a new voice through their communication system, speaking in perfect Zephyrian. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call. Please confirm your situation and stand by for assistance." Vale stared at the communication panel in amazement. "United Earth Fleet. Dr. Nira, do our records mention any species called humans or Earth dwellers?" Nira was already searching through databases, her fingers flying over holographic controls. Nothing, Commander. These beings are completely unknown to us. But somehow, they received our beacon and came to help. The implications were staggering. An unknown species with advanced technology had responded to their desperate call for help. But were they the great protectors mentioned in the ancient texts, or were they something else entirely? Open a channel, Vale ordered. Captain Chen, this is Commander Vale of the Zephyrian Defense Force. We are under attack by the Korthik Empire and facing extinction. Are you truly here to help us? The reply came immediately. Commander Vale, humanity has a saying, no one fights alone. We're here to make sure that stays true. Please transmit all tactical information about your attackers. It's time to show these Korthak what happens when they threaten peaceful people. For the first time in months, Commander Vale felt something that had almost been forgotten. Hope. When humans answer the call, the bridge of the UES Defiant hummed with controlled energy as Captain Sarah Chen studied the tactical display before her. The Zephyrian system spread across her screens like a three-dimensional chessboard, with the beautiful blue-green world of Zephyr Prime at the center and 43 black Korthak warships arranged in attack formation around it. Tactical analysis. Chen ordered, her voice cutting through the quiet efficiency of her bridge crew. Lieutenant Commander Torres, her tactical officer, highlighted different sections of the enemy fleet. Korthak ships appear to be using conventional plasma weapons and projectile systems. Their vessels are heavily armored but lack energy shielding. Formation suggests they rely on overwhelming firepower rather than maneuverability. Chen nodded, watching as more human ships continued to arrive at the edge of the system. The beacon had somehow reached 17 different Earth vessels, from patrol ships like the Defiant to massive carrier groups that had been conducting deep space operations. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled in one location. Sir, called Communications Officer Rodriguez, I'm receiving transmissions from the other Earth ships. They're all reporting the same thing. Their computers recognized the Guardian Protocol automatically and flagged it as maximum priority. That's impossible, muttered Dr. Kim from her science station. The Guardian Protocol doesn't exist in our databases, but every ship's computer is treating it like a core military directive. Chen was about to respond when her communications panel lit up with an incoming transmission. The main screen displayed a reptilian face that could have been carved from nightmares, yellow eyes filled with predatory intelligence, scales dark as space, and teeth that belonged on something that hunted for sport. Unknown vessels. The creature spoke in a voice like grinding stone. You have entered Korthak space without permission. I am General Thork of the Imperial Conquest Fleet. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Chen stood and walked closer to the screen, meeting those alien eyes without flinching. General Thork, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. This system is under our protection now. You have one chance to withdraw peacefully. Thork's mouth opened in what might have been laughter, revealing even more teeth. Humans, I have never heard of your species, but you will learn to fear the Korthik Empire before you die. Your 17 ships cannot stand against my fleet. 17. Chen smiled, and there was something in that expression that made Thork's eyes narrow. General, I think you need better sensors. The tactical display behind Chen updated to show the true scope of the human fleet. 43 ships now surrounded Zephyr Prime, with more arriving every few minutes. Sleek destroyers, massive battleships, and carriers that bristled with fighter squadrons had formed a protective wall around the planet. Thork's confident expression faltered as his own sensors updated. Where did they come from? How did you assemble such a fleet so quickly? We didn't assemble it, Chen replied. It assembled itself. When someone calls for help, humans answer. All of us. She moved closer to the screen. General, you have 60 seconds to begin your withdrawal, or we will demonstrate why humanity earned its place among the stars. The transmission cut to black, leaving the bridge of the Defiant in tense silence. Chen returned to her command chair and opened a fleet-wide channel. All Earth ships, this is Captain Chen aboard the Defiant. We have a peaceful species under threat of extinction by an aggressive empire. Our job is simple: protect the innocent and send a message that will be heard across the galaxy. Humanity does not abandon those who call for help. Responses came back from every ship in the fleet, from the massive carrier UES Yorktown to the nimble destroyer UES Lightning. 43 different captains, all united in a single purpose. On Zephyr Prime, Commander Vale watched the deployment of the human fleet with amazement. Dr. Nira stood beside them, her instruments detecting energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. "Their ships are incredible," Nira whispered. "Look at this sensor data. Some kind of fusion reactor technology we've never seen, weapons that channel pure energy, and defensive systems that seem to bend space itself." Vale studied the tactical display showing both fleets. The Korthak have been unstoppable for decades. They've conquered 17 systems using overwhelming force and brutality. But these humans, they're not just matching Korthak numbers, they're exceeding them. The communications panel crackled with General Thork's voice, now directed at the Zephyrians. Pathetic creatures, hiding behind alien protectors. When I finish with these humans, I will make your world burn for calling them here. Before Vale could respond, Captain Chen's voice cut through the channel. "General, your 60 seconds are up." What happened next would be recorded in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The human fleet moved with precision that spoke of countless hours of training and coordination. They didn't attack in a wild rush or rely on superior numbers. Instead, they demonstrated something the Korthak had never encountered: tactical brilliance combined with righteous fury. The UES Yorktown launched its fighter squadrons, sleek craft that moved like silver darts through space. These weren't just machines, but extensions of their human pilot's will, dancing through Korthak defensive fire with maneuvers that defied physics. The pilots communicated in rapid bursts of tactical data mixed with encouragement and determination. "Phoenix leader to Hawk Squadron, they're trying to flank the Defiant. Not on our watch." "Copy, Phoenix leader. Hawk Squadron engaging. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth today." The main battle line of human ships opened fire with weapons that painted space in brilliant colors. Directed energy beams sliced through Korthak armor like paper, while kinetic projectiles struck with the force of small meteors. But it wasn't just the power of human weapons that shocked the Korthak, it was their restraint. General Thork watched in disbelief as human ships disabled his vessels instead of destroying them. Weapons that could have vaporized entire ships instead targeted engines and weapon systems, leaving crews alive but helpless. "They could be killing us," Thork muttered to his bridge crew. "Why aren't they killing us?" His second-in-command, a scared veteran of a dozen conquests, studied the tactical display with confusion. "General, these humans fight like they're protecting something precious rather than conquering territory." The realization hit Thork like a physical blow. The humans weren't fighting to destroy the Korthak Empire. They were fighting to protect the Zephyrians. This wasn't a battle for resources or territory. It was a rescue mission. Within 30 minutes, the engagement was over. 27 Korthak ships had been disabled, their crews alive but stranded. The remaining 16 vessels were in full retreat, their formations shattered, and their confidence broken. Captain Chen opened a channel to the Korthak flagship. "General Thork, collect your disabled ships and leave this system. If you return, if you threaten these people again, humanity will respond with full force. We will not be as gentle next time." Thork stared at the human captain, with something approaching respect mixed with fear. In 3 decades of conquest, he had never encountered a species that fought with such skill, while showing mercy to defeated enemies. "This is not over, human. The Korthak Empire remembers its defeats." "Good," Chen replied. "Remember this one well. Tell your empire that some species in this galaxy are under human protection now. Test that protection at your own risk." As the Korthak fleet limped away from Zephyr Prime, a very different kind of first contact began. Captain Chen, accompanied by a small diplomatic team, shuttled down to the planet's surface to meet with Commander Vale and the Zephyrian leadership. The meeting took place in a council chamber that exemplified Zephyrian culture, walls of living crystal that glowed with soft light, furniture that seemed to grow from the floor in organic curves, and a ceiling that displayed the real-time beauty of space above them. It was architecture that spoke of a people who valued harmony and beauty above all else. Chen found herself facing beings who looked like living sculptures. The Zephyrians were tall and elegant, with elongated limbs and faces that held an alien beauty. Their movements were graceful, almost dance-like, and their voices carried musical undertones that made even their most urgent statements sound like poetry. Captain Chen, Commander Vale began, we cannot adequately express our gratitude. You have saved not just our lives, but our entire civilization. How can we possibly repay such a debt? Chen smiled, settling into a chair that adjusted automatically to human proportions. Commander, there is no debt. When someone calls for help, decent people answer. That's not something that requires payment. It's just the right thing to do. Dr. Nira leaned forward, her violet eyes bright with curiosity. Captain, we must ask, how did our beacon reach your ships? Our records speak of ancient visitors who left the beacon technology, but we have no mention of humans in our history. That's been puzzling us too, Chen admitted. Our computers recognize your Guardian protocol, but we have no record of creating such a protocol. It's as if the knowledge was buried deep in our systems, waiting for the right signal to activate it. The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Kim, who had been scanning the ancient beacon with her tricorder. Captain, you need to see this. The beacon isn't just communication technology. It's some kind of quantum resonance device that interfaces directly with neural patterns. It didn't just send a message to our ships. It sent a message that our brains were already programmed to understand. Programmed by whom? Vale asked. Kim looked up from her readings with an expression of wonder and confusion. Captain, the quantum signature of this beacon. It matches certain anomalies we've detected in human DNA. Specifically, in the sections that control our instinctive responses to distress calls and protective behaviors. The implications hung in the air like a charged storm cloud. Chen stood and walked to a window that looked out over the Zephyrian capital, watching as their people celebrated in the streets below. Their celebration was artistic and beautiful light sculptures, harmonic music, and graceful dances that turned the entire city into a living expression of joy. Dr. Kim, Chen said slowly, are you suggesting that humans were genetically programmed to respond to these beacons? It's more than that, Captain. I think humans were engineered to be guardians, not just for Earth, but for peaceful species throughout the galaxy. These beacons were placed by whoever created that programming, waiting for the day when humanity would be advanced enough to answer the call. Commander Vale approached the window, standing beside Chen as they both watched the celebration below. Captain, our legends speak of the great protectors who would come when called. Perhaps humans are those protectors, and you simply didn't know it yet. Chen considered this possibility. Humanity had always felt drawn to the stars, always felt compelled to explore and protect. Their greatest heroes were those who sacrificed themselves for others, and their greatest stories were about standing up for the weak against the strong. Maybe it wasn't coincidence that humanity had developed advanced military technology alongside strong humanitarian values. Commander, Chen said finally, whether this is destiny or just coincidence, the result is the same. The human fleet isn't leaving. We're establishing a permanent presence in this sector to ensure the Korthak and others like them understand that some species are under our protection now. Vale's large eyes reflected the lights of their celebrating city. And in return, Captain, perhaps we can share our knowledge with humanity. We are scientists and artists, not warriors. But we have made discoveries about the nature of the universe that might interest your people. Dr. Nira stepped forward, her hands glowing with some form of controlled energy. We have learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to create technology that grows rather than being manufactured. Our medical knowledge can extend lifespans by centuries, and our energy systems are completely sustainable." Chen smiled as she realized what was being offered. The Zephyrians were not just asking for protection. They were offering partnership. Human strength and determination combined with Zephyrian knowledge and wisdom could create something unprecedented in galactic history. "Commander Vale," Chen said, extending her hand in the human gesture of friendship, "I think this is the beginning of a very important alliance." As the two leaders shook hands, neither species realized they were creating the foundation for what would become the Galactic Protection Alliance. Within a decade, 17 different species would join the partnership, all protected by human military might, and all contributing their unique gifts to the collective knowledge of the Alliance. The beacon had called for guardians, and humanity had answered. But in protecting the Zephyrians, humans had found something just as valuable: their true purpose among the stars. They were not conquerors or explorers, though they could be both when necessary. They were protectors, and the galaxy would never be the same. General Thork limped back to Korthak space with his damaged fleet, carrying news that would shake the Empire to its core. There was a new power in the galaxy, one that fought not for conquest, but for protection. The age of unchallenged aggression was over.